mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what? Yeah. You know I be on a what? Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what? Yeah. It's all hard, ain't no fear here. You ain't giving this at all, you steer clear. Never beat, I've been down and I reappear. You got some money on the line, you better put it here. Rolling in and doing that work. Check priorities, I'm doing that first. Check's big and I'm sure that hurts, but it's checkmate. We ain't selling short, no to work. Ain't nowhere to hide. You ain't gotta see me come and keep me on your mind, cause I be on the work.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Farm Report. I am Pete Simonetti, filling in for Los of Yankees Farm today, here with the one, the only, the great Dane himself. Dane, my friend, how are you doing?
On for a while, so it's so nice to see your face, and let's talk some Yankees baseball and prospects.
See your face again. He's so happy. Look at that smile. You can't beat that smile from this handsome son of a bitch, I tell you right now. You couldn't beat that smile if you tried, damn it. Oh, man.
After last night, there's no way you're getting the smile off my face with as good as Luis Heel looked.
Oh, man. Yeah, let's, guys, typically, obviously, you guys know, with me filling in, we wanted to talk a little bit about the Major League squad and how the younger players are doing it. And that's a great segue right into Luis Hill last night, who looked absolutely incredible. Dane, I'm still a little upset he didn't get the W. I wanted him to go to one more batter. I don't see the difference here. One batter, one less batter. Brett Alexander, to his credit, made a great point. And he just simply says, if that one batter was enough, then the previous batter was enough. So just give him the one more. If he gets on, let him go. But we know that baseball's a little different now, and then, they don't really value the pitcher win as much. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, Luis Hill looked amazing. What is your take on his start?
I was really, really excited when I saw the fastball velocity. He was holding that high velocity throughout the game, and he was dialing it up. He went up to 100 miles an hour a couple times, 99, 100. And every time that he was in the windup or the full stretch, he pitched really, really well. The only time that he struggled was when he was doing the little slide step. He saw the velocity of the fastball go down to about 95.8. That was the only, and that's a tiny, tiny nitpick, but that's the only thing that he didn't. I have never seen a pitcher throw a changeup at the top of the zone in on the hands like he's been doing.
Right.
I don't know if that's a changeup or if they're classifying it wrong because it's coming in at 92, 93 miles an hour, but it's something, and he's getting swings and misses with that. The slider looks really good. And he's our number 5 starter. You got to be excited about that from a number 5 starter with that kind of stuff.
It's funny because a lot of the offseason, we talked about a guy that's similar to Luis Hill, Edward Cabrera, a guy that has great velocity, great slider, but lack command. And you kind of sat there and said, with a guy like Matt Blake working with him and Garrett Cole around him, people like that, maybe this guy could really harness that and become extremely good. But we have that in Luis Hill because I think a lot of people were a little wary because of the injury. He's coming off injury. What will the Yankees do with him? Will they give him a shot? And I talked about this all off season as we did. If you watch Luis Hill on IG, he was busting his ass, man. Not that anybody else isn't, but this kid worked very, very hard to get to where he is right now. He's thicker. He's bigger. He's more muscular. It looks like his body might handle the workload a little better now. And man, oh man, I mean, sky's the limit for Luis Hill, how good this kid could really be. He's dominating hitters. I think he allowed, what did he allow? 2 hits? 2 or 3 hits? 2 hits across 4 and 2/3. I mean, 6 Ks. He looked really, really good yesterday. I think Yankee fans across the board got to be very excited about the future of Hill.
Oh, how could you not be excited about the future of Hill? And now that he's added he's more than a two-pitch pitcher. He's a
Yep.
legitimate starting pitcher, and he's got top of the rotation stuff. I don't know that he ever becomes a top of the rotation pitcher, but he's got the stuff to do it. And that's just one of the young arms that we have coming. And
Yep.
I think you have to be very, very excited about that for somebody who wasn't even supposed to be in the rotation to start the year.
That's right. That's right. And I think, I don't know, I think maybe me and you agree on the trajectory for Luis Hill for 2024, not looking too far forward. My idea, and I'll see if you agree or disagree. My idea is that the Yankees let him start for a while up until maybe around 80, 85 innings. And then I think they're going to just say, hey, let's control you out of the bullpen and let's see what you could do in that type of role, and let him go until maybe about 100 flat, maybe 110, maybe. But I think that's what they're going to likely end up doing with Luis Hill.
I agree with that. I don't know if they let him get to 80 as a starter, if they're going to, I think they probably 70, 80, some, yeah. And then leave him some room to get some innings in the bullpen. But if you got to imagine him coming out of the bullpen in later innings, that could be a K-Rod type arm, like when the Angels were good.
Oh yeah. That could be Phil Hughes in 09, where it's just like, go out there and just throw your darts out there, just put these guys away quick.
Yeah, but Hill has better stuff than
way better
Hughes ever did.
I'm just comparing it in the prospect doing that type role and starting and then going into a reliever to finish a year. But yeah, he could be absolutely lights out in that type of role.
I think he ends up in the rotation long term after this year, though.
Yeah,
I don't know how you keep him out of it with as good as his stuff looks.
Yep.
And that kid's worked his can off. So
no doubt about it. And getting into some of the other guys that we have seen, you know, I made the prediction earlier in this offseason that if Anthony Vulpi changes that swing path, he becomes more leveled, works on the approach, that's the only way I could see this kid being an all-star. Other than that, I think it's going to be more 205s, 210s, 215s, because there's so much talent there that he just needed to harness it. And I tell you this right now, man, you're seeing that kid that some people thought could be a 300 hitter, could be a high average guy. The first 5 games of this year, you are seeing a completely different player. It's like I changed the whole chapter. It's like I forget the chapters. I just grabbed a new book. It's a new player that was seeing.
This is the guy that we were begging. This is the guy that you and I were begging to see all last year.
Yep.
The level swing, the keep the bat in the zone longer, forget the home runs, use the speed. And we're seeing all that from him.
Yeah.
He looks like the player that we saw in high A and double A that was so good that people thought could be so special. And I know people want to see him in the leadoff spot already because Torres doesn't look great up there. It's too soon. Let him get some more games under him, maybe 30 games. If he can show this over 30 games, then get him up in the leadoff spot if Torres is still struggling. But wow, what a difference in Anthony Vulpi. I think he's going to be that all-star. And what he does now that he uses the best part of his game is just transformative to that lineup.
No question about it. And look, people got to remember, and when I talk about this Yankee offense now, first, I just want to put a disclaimer out there. One, it's very, very early. We're only about to enter game 6. And yes, they look very, very good. But the reason I'm saying that is because a lot of people tend to go back to the dynasty years and they go 98, 99, 2000, 96. I look at this as more of an 09 style lineup where these guys are very well balanced. It's a well balanced 1 through 9. They're working pitchers amazingly well. They're getting in hitters counts. And when there's a runner on third base, they're bringing a guy in. Whether it's a sac fly, whether it's a ground ball, they're changing what they were and getting more back to what we have all been begging for, is a team that puts the ball in play more, doesn't always just rely on the homers. We know we can hit them. But we're a team that can drive a run in when it needs to be. We could take a walk and let the next guy drive a run in. that is what they're doing, and they are resembling that style of play. So I'm not comparing them to the team, but that style that the
Right.
'09 Yankees had, which it was just a tough out with everybody in the lineup because they worked you so well.
100%. You see the Yankees are at the top of baseball and taking the most pitches per plate appearance.
Yep.
That I think it was Soto or Rizzo came out the other day and said that their team identity was going to be working the starting pitcher and getting into the bullpens. As you said, very reminiscent of '09. They have balance throughout that lineup. And then you have those kids at the bottom of the order
Boom.
that are producing at an incredibly high level. While it is early, they're leading the charge with Juan Soto. It's not Judge, it's not Stanton, it's not Rizzo, it's not DJ. And when those guys get hot, eventually they're going to, that lineup's going to be just an absolute terror.
No question. And you're 100% right, man. You look at that bottom of the order, and even a guy like Austin Wells, who hasn't had, all these hits, but his at-bats have been exceptional. That day he went from 0-2 to draw to walk. I mean, that was a veteran at-bat. That's a professional hitter type
It
AB.
was.
He's had a couple of balls he's just missed, that he's flied out to deep center, deep right, that he's just missing. And you can see why everybody's been so high on these players. Oswaldo Cabrera is a guy that is out there, I think, with a chip on his shoulder going, look, I'm better than the guy that I was those last couple of years. He watched Soto a lot. He watched Aaron Judge a lot. He wanted to be around these great hitters and say, what is it that I'm missing? I know I'm good. I know I could play ball. What is it that I'm missing? And right now, I tell you what, when we say the word missing, one guy we're not missing right now, and I hate saying it, is DJ LeMahieu. These younger kids add something. Cabrera's faster. He has a decent glove. John Berti comes off the bench and saves the ball game for the Yankees with a great diving play.
He did.
He also gets an RBI single, puts the ball in play. Great speed. So the Yankees aren't missing as much as you'd think they would. Other guys are stepping up, and that's how teams win.
Yeah, that's exactly how teams win. I tell you what, the only guy that's on the major league roster that I'm not 100% sold on is Giancarlo Stanton. Other than that, I think that lineup is as good of a lineup as I've seen since '09, honestly.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
And if you put Jason Dominguez in that lineup right now instead of Giancarlo Stanton, what's that look like?
Well, you would know likely who your leadoff hitter is, in my opinion, if that's the case. Keep Vulpi. If Dominguez comes back healthy and strong, let Vulpi just be the man of the bottom of that order. And if you don't think he's going to score 100 runs, he would. He'd score 100 runs, folks. He'd score. As long as he stays healthy, batting 9, with those guys coming up to drive him in, he'd score 100 runs like it's nothing. Nothing.
It's a second leadoff guy. Yeah, it's absolutely exciting. And look at Robinson Cano on that '09 team. He was towards the bottom of the order. He hit close to 300 that year and produced a ton. Melky Cabrera as well. And I think that's...
And Gardner and Gardy, they were at the bottom of the order, those guys.
Right. And they scored a lot of runs that year. And I think that's what Vulpi can be this year.
No question.
I love Jason Dominguez being able to switch hit, his elite approach to the plate. Even last year when he wasn't hitting well, you saw him take a lot of pitches and draw walks and steal bases. That's why he had a successful first half, even though his batting average was under 200.
Yeah.
If he's making contact, you put that in front of Juan Soto, and then you put that in front of Aaron Judge, and then you put that in front of Anthony Rizzo. Mm-hmm. Holy cow. What does that lineup turn into?
It's absolutely wild because I feel like it gets better because I'm with you. The only guy I'm not really sold on is Stanton. I'm not sold on the ABs. Yeah. I'm not sold on the one homer. You saw a lefty come in throwing 91 and blowing pitches by him yesterday and just not looking great. I mean, look, I'm not. The one thing I will say about Stanton is he looks like he is moving better. It looks like he is running better and
He
he's
is
not
moving
as
better.
slow as he was. So whatever happened to weight off the legs maybe have really helped him get a little more comfortable. But he is moving better. But again, is he going to be a guy that would be more productive than one of your younger players? I don't know. I don't know if there's enough intangibles there for Stanton across the board to warrant that, especially warrant that at the money he's getting paid. I don't think it makes sense. I think I'd much
Right.
rather pay for the roster spot, but I'm not selling out on him yet. There's still time. I want to give him,
Absolutely.
a good month of April, maybe into May, and then really look if you go into mid-May and Stanton is hitting low 200s, high 100s. I think at that point you got to say, now we got a serious conversation here because this ain't working. This ain't, no matter how good the team is, this ain't working.
Right. Right. I mean, if you've got Jason Dominguez down there ready, healthy, and can contribute to that team, who's going to contribute more, him or Stanton?
Oh, I don't even think it's really a comparison at this point. Until we see something from Stanton, I mean, you could almost bank on the majority of the roster doing better than him. And it sucks to say because, yeah, we all like G. Nobody wants to see G struggle. We want to see him be good because it'll only make this team better. But he has to show it over an extended period of time. It can't be something that he homers one game and go, he's back. We got to see some sort of level
No,
of
because
consistency from him.
he's been bad since the second half of 2022.
That's right.
I mean, this isn't a small sample size anymore. This is over multiple seasons that he has not been the same guy. And I don't know if it's something he can get back. I don't know what it is. But at some point, when you have Jason Dominguez and Spencer Jones coming with as good as Spencer Jones looked this spring, you're going to have to make a decision on that roster spot because what either one of those two young players brings you is more than what Giancarlo Stanton's going to bring you right now.
No question about it. No doubt about it. So let's get into some roster assignments. And obviously,
Yeah.
you're the man here for all that. So we'll pull them up on the screen. We'll talk about some surprises, maybe some people you thought should be at different levels, and go from there. And the first one is the Tampa Tarpons. Any surprises here for you for Tampa?
Yeah, I'm really surprised George Lombard and Roderick Arias are both on that roster and Kiner Delgado is not.
Agreed. Yeah, I am kind of surprised that Kiner Delgado's not. So Kiner Delgado doesn't even break camp in low A, which is rather surprising. When you say George Lombard and Roderick Arias, is it that you're surprised that they're at this level or that they're both at this level?
That they're both at this level. They're both
Okay.
shortstops. They both need to be getting reps at shortstop. And right now, one of them is going to play a different position to stay in the lineup. The only thing I can think of that they started Lombard in Tampa is because of the weather in Hudson Valley. And they might want to keep him in the warmer weather for a month. I think you're going to see him quickly get up to high A. And then we'll see Kiner come up because Kiner is a very, very good player. He won the FCL MVP. He's been a 1-to-1 strikeout to walk guy for 2 years now. He's a very, very good player, but he's not quite on Lombard or Arias's level. So
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of surprising to not see him there. And I wonder if we see George Lombard early on start getting reps at third base. Because, I mean, they played the hell out of him in spring training with him being so young. It's like they took a very extended look at him, which usually you don't see for such a young player. They took a long look at him. So I wonder if they got him on the fast track.
I think that they have to because he's such a talented player. You can see that in spring training. That bat stays in the zone forever. He makes adjustments that most 18-year-olds don't. He does everything so well. You can see why he was in the top last year to be a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
I mean, he just does everything so well, and he's so young. I think you're going to see him in the Bronx before he's 21.
Wow. Honestly, it wouldn't shock me because they really, it was as clear as day that they really, really like this kid and they believe that, there's something special there. I don't remember the last time that you saw a kid that young get as much playing time in spring training as he did. I do not remember seeing
Uh,
that really from anybody.
nope. Even going all the way back to Jeter, it
That's
didn't
what I'm saying.
happen.
I
Lombard
don't
was the,
remember
I think he
that.
was the first. I think he was the first high school shortstop that we've drafted since Jeter that hit over 300 in low A.
Yeah, so I mean, look, here's a guy with a shit ton of potential. You guys hear us talk very highly of him. You see him in person, you can see that frame continuing to build out. I know when I was down there talking to a few people, a lot of people said Carlos Correa is like a
Yes.
body type. I know you mentioned Manny Machado. I could see any either one of those
Yep.
guys really being something that he kind of develops into. But I think this kid has a chance to be a legitimate player, and I'm very excited to see what him and Roderick Arias do in low A and what level they finish the year at. It's going to be very interesting, especially if they
I think
tear that league
Lombard
up.
gets to double.
You
I
really
think Lombard
double A
gets to
already?
double A this year.
Wow. He would be,
Yeah,
if
I
he gets
do.
the double A, you got to assume he's a top 25 prospect in baseball. At least top 50. At
Yeah.
least top 50. Has to be.
Uh, at least.
In his
At least.
18-year-old season, he
Uh,
gets the double A. I mean, yeah, you gotta think he's a top 50 prospect at that point across baseball.
he doesn't turn 19 until September.
Shit. Yeah, he'd have to
So
be.
he's going to play. Yeah, he's going to play this whole year as an 18-year-old. He's a special, special kid. But the rest of there's two other surprises at Tampa.
Okay.
Carlos Legrand
Mm-hmm.
and Henry Lalane are
Yep.
not there yet.
Yep.
Now, they're both going to be on innings limits. I
Right.
know we talked the last time we talked about Legrand or Lalane. We were talking about the Baseball America article about him getting to AAA and
Yeah.
being a top 10 prospect in all of baseball. Look, he's got some of the best stuff in the system. We saw that in the spring breakout game. But realistically, this kid has thrown about 25 innings last year. He's not going to get to AAA this year.
Yeah,
It's just
that
not
would be
going to
wild.
happen.
Right. I agree. I agree.
So I think they have enough pitching. You got to remember that none of the kids from last year's draft class debuted last year.
Right.
And they're all coming out and they have these kids ahead of Lalane and Legrand. But we will see them in Tampa this year.
No doubt. No doubt about it. That's a very valid point. I'll be honest. That's why you do this stuff. It literally slipped my mind about either one of those guys and where they're going to start. So, great point there. Let's go ahead and move on to Hudson Valley. A couple of guys I know for a fact Dane likes: Kyle Carr, Jackson Fristow. Two guys that I see immediately off the bat: Jesus Rodriguez at catcher. Cole Gabrielson, we also saw in Mexico get a little playing time, and then also a couple of infielders that we're very aware of. Rock Reggio being one, and Jared Serna. What do you think about Hudson Valley's roster?
I'm a little confused by Hudson Valley's roster, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I see Cerna as a second or third baseman. I
Mm.
don't think he's a shortstop, and that's probably the position that he's going to play at Hudson Valley. I thought he should have been in Double A last year, especially with the way he looked in the um, Mexican Winter League this year. I thought he should have been up to Double A. Kyle Carr, I think he's a big name that you're going to hear a lot about. We've seen one outing from, or we've seen him one pitching performance from him. He was mid 90s with a fastball. Slider looked really good, and that was the concern last year. Had a change up. This is going to be one of those guys like a Will Warren, like a Chase Hampton that goes through that system very quickly.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and they had another pitcher from last year's draft class, Josh Grote. No,
Let me pull it back up for you.
there's one. Brian Hendry
Okay.
is another kid. Yeah, he was drafted last year. He's a later round pick, and they're already starting him there. He has the chance to be that Will Warren, that Chase Hampton, that guy that you find,
Mm,
the Hayden Wesniskis that they find in later rounds that they start high and blitzes through the system. We were wondering who it was going to be from this class, and it's obviously going to be Hendry.
nice.
So,
So a couple of
and
surprises there. And what do you believe? Do you definitely think that CERN is 100% going to be the shortstop there, or is there a chance that he does place second or third?
well, Rock's going to probably play second base.
Second, that's what I
So
figured.
I
Yeah.
would think, and there's nobody else on that roster that really plays shortstop. And Cerna spent most of the winter at shortstop and left field in the Mexican Winter League. So, I mean, he can play the position. He's got an absolute cannon for an arm. I just
Right.
don't think that's a long-term position. It makes me think that he might be a trade piece if they were playing him at
Mm.
shortstop, not a long-term piece.
What about Alexander Vargas? Isn't he
Vargas is
typically?
he is, but the bat just doesn't. He doesn't even hit his weight anymore,
Mm,
and he's not a big kid. He was a big dollar signing because the bat to ball skills were incredible. He's switch hitter, and he's just never grown big enough to put a real charge in the ball.
mm.
Um, Maybe he does play some shortstop. I don't know. I wasn't down at spring training. I didn't hear anything wonderful about what he did in spring. Maybe they give him another shot at shortstop, but I think he probably is a utility guy now.
Wow, interesting. So he's definitely. I would say he's fallen off quite a bit. Is a fair assessment for
Yeah.
him.
From
Yeah.
the other guy I'm really excited about that level is Jesus Rodriguez. This is a kid
Yes, I know
that
you're
hit
high on him.
310 with 15 home run and 20 stolen bases. He's primarily a catcher, third baseman, but he
Mm,
played all three outfield positions in the Venezuelan Winter League that he played. He can play some first base. He can play all over. And when you have that kind of bat, plus the ability to run steal bases, I think that's a pretty special player, even if he just ends up being a really good utility player.
right. And you guys
So,
here at NYU, we have him ranked as our number 22 prospect overall
right.
on the new top 30.
Yeah.
So, guys, if you have not checked out that new top 30, go do it. A couple of guys we already talked about. Kyle Carr, we got coming in at 20. Jared Cerna at 19. A couple of names you heard already. All those guys are going to be on there with really, really good write-ups. And we're going to talk about a few more here that are going to be in double A. A couple of big names here that we're gonna discuss. A couple of ones that I'm very, very excited about. I think one of the big names that's going to really be a name around baseball this year. That's Brock Selvage, man. We saw Brock Selvage in the spring breakout game. He looks absolutely awesome. Couple of relievers, Neely, Watson, are guys to keep your eyes on. Again, one of my favorites in the system, Augustine Ramirez is there. Ben Rice is there. Spencer Jones,
Yep.
Yankees number 2 prospect we have ranked, is down there. And I mean, you're looking at a club here who is probably going to put up some runs, and they're probably going to dominate some clubs as long as all these guys are together. But Somerset looks like a pretty solid roster. What are your thoughts on it?
I was really excited for Brock when we got the call that he got to double A. Carlos got a chance to talk to him. He's really excited. And I think we saw in the spring breakout game just how special that kid can be.
Oh yeah.
The fastball gets up to 97. I think he's going to add a little bit more velocity to that. But he's just an absolute pit bull on the mound. He just wants to tear everybody's heart out and win. And I'm very, very excited about him. But the biggest surprise in the whole system ended up on that roster, and that was Tristan Vreeling. And with him getting it, we didn't see him at all last year. He was hurt. He went to the AFL, didn't exactly perform well in the AFL.
Right.
and he goes all the way to Double A, which is an incredibly aggressive assignment.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be interesting to see if they're going to put him in the bullpen or if they're going to leave him as a starter, because
Right.
you don't usually put a guy in Double A in their first taste of the professional baseball
Yeah.
and have them start. That would be pretty unheard of.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean,
But
when I look overall at this roster, there's a few names that I think are obviously gonna stand out. I think one of the things is if I look at the offensive side of the ball first, is where do these three catchers spend a lot of their time? JC Escara is not a prospect, but he's a guy that's gonna get a lot of time in Double A, likely a lot of playing time. You agree or you
right.
don't think he will or he will?
One of them, no, I think he will. I
Yeah,
think
he
one of
plays
them
multiple
ends up
positions
at
too,
first
though.
base.
Yeah,
He does. He does play multiple positions. I think they're going to rotate the three of them between first base, catcher, and DH.
that makes sense because again, you do got JC Escara there, you got Augustine Ramirez, and you got Ben Rice, and a lot of people are out there
Right.
already trying to figure out who Ben Rice is. Are we gonna see a similar season, or are we gonna see a guy that regresses? I think that is the biggest question with Ben Rice: is will he be something that he was last year? Whether it's similar to it, or are you gonna see a steep decline in his play? Your initial thoughts on that? What do you think we see from Ben Rice?
I struggled a lot last year with what I thought Ben Rice was. You and I
Right.
talked about that a lot.
Yep.
I think you'll see the batting average stay high. Whether you see the power continue is something I don't know,
Mm,
because that was so uncharacteristic from him last year. We'd never seen that kind of power. All of a sudden, it showed up, and we've only seen it in a small sample size,
right.
although it was a pretty significant display of power, hitting 24 home runs or 22 home runs, whatever it was, and like 350 at bats. But I don't know what we're going to see from him. I honestly think that we'll see the batting average stay and we'll hope for the power. And I think he ends up being a trade chip, honestly.
I could see that too, and maybe we'll talk about one of those names that could be a possible team that could have interest near the deadline. That would make a lot of sense for the Yankees. People are already talking about it, and we'll get to that towards the end of the show. But a couple of other names on
Okay.
there. I think it's a big year for Augustine Ramirez to show who he is. I think if he
I
falters, he kind of gets left in that large group of we don't know, maybe we'll see
right.
what he becomes. But if this kid has a solid season again, like the numbers he put up not in Double A, the numbers he put up before that, I mean, man, if this
Right.
bat takes off in Double A, I think the Yankees got some serious decisions to make on how they figure out a way to get his bat in the lineup. Because the one thing we know, this kid could hit a ton. I mean, you see him in person; he's
Oh,
he's a very
absolutely.
very strong kid. Obviously he can tear the cover off of a baseball. We know that, but can he do it with a level of
He's,
consistency that's going to separate him from everybody else? That's the question.
I, re- I really think he can. I'm a big believer in that bat. He went
Me
three
too.
levels last year, and every time that he got a chance, he hit.
Yep.
So I think that as long as he gets consistent reps, he's going to put up big offensive numbers. I think the deciding factor is going to be how well the defense with the glove improves. He's got a cannon
Yeah.
for an arm,
Yep.
but if he can improve the framing, the game calling, the receiving a little bit, then he becomes a more viable major league starting catcher.
Yeah.
And then the Yankees really have something special on their hands.
It's always that question about Dominican catchers, man. It's always that question about Dominican catchers. Can they be the full package? It's funny
Right.
because Los would sit here and go, well, Austin Wells. You know what I mean? He would say Austin Wells
Yeah.
because he has the Dominican grandmother. But again, I mean, we can't move past this level without talking about the big man, Spencer Jones. But before we do that, there's one more guy I want to talk about, and that is TJ Rumfield. Is TJ Rumfield going to
Hmm.
put himself on a map this year? Because if there was ever a time, I would say this is the year. We know his glove is phenomenal at
Yeah.
first base. We know that. We know he's a lefty bat that could have power. He hit for average before, but now the average is taking a dip. Is he going to
Right.
be able to become that full package? Because look, we saw him in the spring breakout game hit an absolute tank. We saw that. We know the power is
Tank.
there. We know it's all there. The problem now becomes, is he an all-out power, low average guy, or is he got to combine both of those and really be knocking on the door at first base? Because the Yankees don't have first base prospects. So could he become that top
No,
guy this
they
year?
don't. I think he really could. You saw him in 2022. He was more of an average, lower strikeout guy, not as much power. Last year, we saw the exact opposite. If
Right.
he can kind of get somewhere in the middle of those two, I think it's going to be, he could be that guy at first base for us because we really don't have anybody else in the system other than Ben Rice and some catchers that
Yep.
are real first base prospects. And he's a Gold Glove caliber first baseman. I
Yeah.
mean, he's won that
Yeah.
award in the minors. And when you have the kind of offense and young players that we do, if you get somebody that's an elite defender that can put up, major league average numbers at first base, but play Gold Glove caliber defense,
It's
I
worth it.
think you might have to take a long look at that.
100%. No doubt
Yeah.
about it. And especially too, as a business, you do always think about the numbers when it comes to crunch time of signing Soto and these other guys and then going, well, what do we take at less value? Well, I take a glove at less value with an average bat. Even if he's a guy that hits
Right.
240, 245, 250 and hits 20 homers, I mean, and plays elite defense.
A
Even
Brandon
if he,
Belt type.
yeah, exactly. Even if he had 230, I mean, and he's providing great
Right.
defense at first base and pops a homer every now and then, you can't be upset with that because I do think defense at first base by a lot of fans is very underrated. I don't think a lot of times you hear people say, put this guy there, put that guy there. No, you should value defense at first base. It is very important.
Look at Luke Voigt when he was here, and look how many errors we saw in the infield, how many balls we saw go by. And then we have Anthony Rizzo, and that's been a complete transformation. Anthony Rizzo is a big reason why Anthony Vulpi won that Gold Glove last year.
Hell yeah.
And I value defense at first base more highly than a lot of people because it makes the whole infield better.
Correct.
And there's enough bats around where that doesn't have to be our most offensive productive position for me.
Right. Let's talk about him.
So,
We have to. Spencer Jones. Spencer Jones.
my guy.
We have him ranked as the number 2 prospect for the New York Yankees. A lot of people have him ranked number 1. Whether you have him 1 or 2, we all know the potential of what Spencer Jones could be for this club. Now I think there's a lot of eyes on him. There's a lot of people who maybe last year kind of fell off on him because he didn't have that exceptional year that people were expecting. And Dane, you
I was one of them.
Well, I was one of them last year. If you remember, we were told together. We were told the same information last offseason that some people thought he would make the major leagues before Dominguez would. Some people were telling us this kid's gonna fly to the majors. He has that type of ability. Well, maybe they were just a year late. Maybe this will be that season. What do you think?
His path is difficult again with Giancarlo Stanton in front of him. But I think you are going to see the Spencer Jones again that we saw this spring training. And that's the same guy that we saw the first year he was in the system, the guy that hit around 300. Last year, numbers wise, he had a great year in everything but strikeouts. And we saw that strikeout rate go down. And then this spring training, we saw it drop all the way to 12%. And while 12% isn't sustainable, if he can keep that around 21, 22% with his kind of bat to ball skills and speed, he's an elite player. I mean,
no doubt.
That kind of, you don't see that kind of speed on many kind of people. 29.8 feet per second down the first baseline. I don't care what anyone says. That's the most impressive part about him.
Easy. I talk about it all the time. When you see him in person and you see the speed in person, yeah, it opens your eyes because you don't recognize just how big Spencer Jones is until you see him in person. You may think in your head he's tall and
Right.
lanky. He's not tall and lanky. This kid is jacked. He's jacked. He's a
Yeah.
strong individual, let me tell you. So when you do see him in person, I remember, bro, the first time we saw him up close, me and Kev were sitting right in the front at the complex, and here comes Spencer Jones right in front. I'm talking about 4 feet, 5 feet right in front of us. Only thing
Right.
between us is the little gate where he's on the on deck circle, and you see him, and I looked at Kev and I said, "Bro, I don't know." I said, "Bro, I don't know." I said, "I don't know, but I don't know. I think you might have to hang out with this kid for a little bit and see what he does this season and take the risk." But man, oh man, I mean, all the potential in the world, all the talent in the world, and the other thing too is he's a real center fielder. Let's not kid ourselves here. Aaron Judge is
No.
not a real center fielder. We know Aaron Judge should not be in
No.
center field. Soto, by the way, looks amazing in right field. So I think Judge is, the Yankees probably sat around and say, hey, look, this guy projects much better in right field. And Judge is probably like, I'll play center. I don't care. And the Yankees just sat there and go, all right,
Right.
that will make we feel better with what we have. But Spencer Jones, no doubt about it, long term can handle center field. I think we both agree that Jason Dominguez is better in left field. The Yankees have the ability to
Right.
do that. They can easily swap out Soto and Judge as a DH right field combination. And every now and then they can move around the outfield to give the other kids a day off if need be. But there is a window here to make it work with your 1 and 2 prospect, and that is Dominguez and Jones. You don't necessarily have to pick and
Right.
choose. There is a window. It just
No, you
requires the
don't.
Yankees to make a tough decision. Not a tough decision, a tough financial decision that they would have to agree to and actually do. And we know what that is.
Right. And I think that they're going to have to do that. But one thing, I don't like Spencer Jones at first base. I think that's a waste of his natural ability. But
Agreed.
we've seen an elite athlete like Cody Bellinger play some first base because he's that good of an athlete and then go back out to center field.
Right.
I could see them doing that kind of thing with Spencer Jones if they don't want to get rid of Dominguez or get rid of Stanton right away.
Right.
Maybe they play him a little bit at first base, move him around that way. I don't think that's what they will do, but it's an option.
Agreed. I agree 100% with that. And then the only other thing that we have to look at now is AAA. And AAA is AAA is
Yeah.
there really isn't. You go around and look. Oh, this is old, by the way. I got the wrong one pulled though. Let me close that off. I was about to say I seen Estevan Florial there, Oswaldo Cabrera. I was like, yeah, that was the previous year. That's 2022. So my bad, guys. But Dane,
It's
what's on that roster right now to really look forward to?
Everson Pereira and Will Warren
And
are the
that's
two
really it.
names that you want to watch on that roster. Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
That's what I was thinking.
Will Warren
also.
kind of had a tough start in his first outing, and that's not unexpected with him thinking that he was really had a shot at making the team, and then he just goes to the opening day starter. It's one outing. He had a bad one. He's going to be a really good pitcher. We saw that in spring. I think
Yeah.
he'll be up sometime after May, June.
Yeah. They'll get the year.
As far as
They'll
Estevan,
get the service time and all that and wait until that. There'll be
right,
no reason not to.
right. And as far as Estevan, or not Estevan Florial, goodness, Everson
Major
Pereira.
leagues, by the way. Major leagues with the Guardians. He's on the team.
Yeah,
He got a hit in a stolen
he
base
did.
the
He
other
made
day.
the
Just
team.
saying. Got a hit in a stolen bag the other day. So good for him. God bless him.
I hope he does very well. I
Me too.
think he's going to be a great fourth outfielder.
Agreed.
But as far as Everson Pereira, we've already talked about the outfield. That outfield, the future of the Yankees outfield is Jones, Judge, Dominguez, and Soto in some form.
Right.
It's just not Everson Pereira. I really like the kid, but there's just not a place for him. So if he can go down there and hit and reclaim some of that trade value that he's lost from the whatever 80 at bats he had last fall in the major leagues. That's the best case for him, and he'll get moved in a deal at the deadline for something we need, like a starting pitcher.
Agreed. And I think that is the best case scenario for the Yankees, right? Is that he tears up the ball in AAA, and it gives them a really strong trade piece. And speaking of that, the reason why I was laughing earlier when it came to like Ben Rice and stuff like that, because one of the guys, Dane, that you were all over in the offseason actually is looking like he's kind of returning back to his old form, and that's Shane Bieber. And I've gotten hit left and right with opinions of could the Yankees trade for Bieber and Clase in a major deal that really sets us up to go forward. And look, we got all the time in the planet to discuss these things in the next couple of months, but it is kind of intriguing, right, to see if a team would be a fair matchup. And I don't know if it'll be for both of those guys. I don't know if, the Bieber situation would happen. We don't know how the Guardians will be at that time, where they will be, what they're doing. But it is a fun thing to consider, because if a guy like Everson Pereira is tearing the cover off of the ball in AAA at 23 years old, I mean, you got to think that would be a very nice starting point of a deal for a guy like a Bieber, who is only you only control him for a couple of months, so 2 months basically. So that could be a very not going to get spent. Move.
You're not going to get Spencer Jones for Shane Bieber.
Agreed.
It's going to be a secondary piece that's just a little bit better than a compensation round draft pick. Could that be Everson Pereira? Sure. Could that be Ben Rice, Jared Serna, somebody like that? As far as Clase, he has so much control that they're going to want something really big and special for him.
Agreed.
I mean, I believe that for both those guys, a deal would start with either Jason Dominguez or Spencer Jones. And I don't think the Yankees do that for a bullpen arm when they look at what they've done with bullpen arms and just since spring training.
Yeah, and I think what I was telling people, Dane, and you've obviously heard me say this on game season, is that I think before you even consider trading for a closer, you'd have to see Ian Hamilton in that role for a little while, because the Yankees may have a closer in Ian Hamilton.
100%. He looks just absolutely like he's built for that role. He does not have the emotion that you worry about with your closers. He's just dead focused, dead calm, and looks like he's going to be a Terminator.
He is the Terminator.
He is the Terminator.
Yeah,
he is. He really is.
I'm going to get the music dun 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 when he comes in. I'm going to play it. That's something else I'm going to do, matter of fact. Ian Hamilton, that's how much we love you, you son of a bitch. We're going to go ahead and put the Terminator down. If the Terminator doesn't stick this year on Ian Hamilton, I'll be very upset, by the way. It has to stick. That name is perfect for him.
It's going to. And he has so much control. What a find by Matt Blake and the Yankees scouting department.
Told you, man. Sometimes you got to tip your cap, and that is definitely one of them to tip the cap. Look, Nick Birdie. Nick Birdie's another one that a lot of people probably saw and said, you know what? Yeah, we could bring him into spring, but he's going to get hurt. I mean, this kid has 4 or 5 major injuries on that arm, and how long is he going to last? The Yankees probably noticed that he changed the arm angle, and they probably said, look, the stuff is the same, if not maybe even better. Let's take the flyer. We think maybe that'll ease up the injuries a bit, knock on wood. Nick Birdie looks friggin' awesome, man. He is indeed Dirty Birdie.
He does. You and I have been talking about him since spring training. He looks like he's going to be a wonderful addition to the back of that bullpen. As we saw last night, he came in and got a couple big outs. He can do that. And I think that you're going to see, it really, really wouldn't surprise me if Ian Hamilton and Nick Birdie ended up as that 8th, 9th inning role at some point this year.
Shouldn't shock anybody. I think for some people, it's kind of like a moment just because they haven't seen enough of them yet. But Nick Birdie is looking, and look, already you see him coming in a little later in a game. Already you see him coming in, the Yankees going. They had him warmed up when there was men on base. They're already kind of recognizing this is a guy that misses bats. So he's a guy that could come in with some men on base and get a couple of Ks for us if need be, or be one of those guys that put out fires. And,
Yeah.
Clay Holmes is going to be Clay Holmes, man. I hear people debate the Clay Holmes stuff all the time. Well, look, not everybody's Mariano Rivera, and he's been one of the better relievers and this and that. That doesn't mean you don't look to improve. And that does not mean that
Right.
you sit there and just go, well, he's good enough. There's some things we don't like about him, but he's good enough. That's not the way you run a baseball organization. You always want to improve. And I think the majority of people would sit there and go, yeah, he when he's off, he's off. And let's not act like the game against Houston wasn't going to be a blown save. If Oswaldo Cabrera is at third base, that's likely a blown save. To be fair, not knocking Oswaldo Cabrera, but Birdie's a very, very, very good defender, and that would have been a blown
an
save.
amazing
And they lose
play.
that game. They lose that game. That would have been a walk-off right there, and that would have been it. So let's not act like, he wouldn't have a blown save already and have given us cardiac Clay. But it is what it is. I think you're always looking to improve your team, no matter how good he's been in whatever role.
One more name that we haven't talked about, yes, Dennis Santana.
Correct.
I think he's going to play a role and real soon. I like this Cousins move that they got.
Me too.
I think that's going to be a beneficial move. I don't know about JT Brew Baker. That's kind of a little weird, but
the thing I like about Brew Baker, and I don't know how he's going to return, but I don't know if you saw my tweet. I called this move in the offseason of 2023 before he had his injury and all that. And the reason I did is because he fits what the Yankees look for. He has a strong sinker. He hits 96, 97. He had good strikeout numbers. People forget as a starter, he struck out 1 per 9. He struck out a batter per inning. I mean, he was matching that up, so he was hitting that. I said 1 per 9, my bad. That's the wrong terminology for that. But he struck out a batter an inning. And that's the type of guy that the Yankees look for. He has a good break-in pitch and a slider, and maybe you harness a guy like that in a bullpen role, got a good change, and maybe they harness that in a bullpen role. The Yankees kind of like that long relief guy that can give them 2 innings out of the pen, and he could very well fit that role in the second half of the season.
Absolutely. I think that is going to become a more critical role in the bullpens going forward, is that 2-inning role, 3-inning role. I think he could be absolutely perfect for that, as could a Clayton Bieber later in the year, or even now. I think they're going to have multiple multi-inning types.
Yeah.
And I really like that bullpen this year. I really, really do.
So, Dane, it is basically the start of minor league baseball all around. Can you give us, let's do this. Who are the 3 players in the minors? And even if some of it's obvious, just tell us the 3 players in the minors that you think fans should really keep their eye on this year. And if you want to go to 5 players, go right ahead.
I'm going to go to 5. Brock Selvage. Chase Hampton, when he gets back, I think is going to be, that's something we should talk about real quick.
Yeah, please.
Chase has a UCL. He's got a little UCL sprain, and usually that ends up in Tommy John's, but apparently they caught it in time, and he's going to have PRP injections as well as anti-inflammatories, and they expect him to miss 8 weeks before, and then they'll reassess. But I think he's going to come back, and you're going to see some special things from him later this year. Chase Hampton, he and Brock have a chance to be very special, in my opinion.
Right.
Spencer Jones is the 3rd guy. I don't know that we see him this year as much as we want to, but I think he's definitely a guy to watch. I think he's going to put up huge numbers. And then the 2 kids in Tampa being George Lombard and Roderick Arias.
Wow.
If I could tell those 5 guys, watch those 5 guys, and you're going to see at least 3 special players from that.
I couldn't disagree with you anymore. Everybody knows I'm a big fan favorite of Augustin Ramirez, so I would definitely say pay attention to that bat in Double-A. But yeah, how can you disagree with your list? I mean, those are really the guys to pay close attention to. Roderick Arias, I'm so high on. George Lombard really grew on me to the point that I'm sitting there agreeing with you, and I'm saying I think this is one of the most advanced at bats that we have in the minor leagues. I mean, the way he keeps his bat through the zone, I said it there, I think it's the prettiest swing that we have. For a right-handed hitter, you don't hear that a lot. That's a beautiful swing.
No,
you don't hear that for
that's
righties.
a beautiful. And I hate to say this. I hate it. But I got to agree with Kev. There's a little Jeter-esque in that swing.
Well, yes, I don't disagree because Jeter was a master of keeping the bat head in the zone for a long time. That's how he could hit line drives down the right field line with ease or just deliver an easy base hit to right field. George Lombard, it's as clear as day when you watch him. It's as clear as day.
Yeah.
You know? A couple of other guys, I don't know where, we didn't talk about Brando Maella. Do we have any idea where he's going to be starting?
He came stateside. He's stateside right now. He's in extended spring training, and he'll start in the FCL.
All right, perfect. So
we're going to see him.
That's another one to keep your eye on right there. Dane already talked about Connor Delgado. You know, one guy I'm going to give a little bit of love to, and I don't want to act like this is a starter, but I think he's going to be somebody that can help the Yankees maybe even this year if things go a certain way. It's Caleb Durbin. I think he opened a lot of eyes in spring training. He's a utility guy. I don't think this is a guy that the Yankees would start, especially with all the talent they have coming up. But man, oh man, as a guy that could play multiple positions, I think Caleb Durbin could be very, very good for the Yankees off the bench. He could be a lot like Bertie.
Yeah, low strikeout rate, plays multiple positions pretty well. He's added the outfield to his tool set. I mean, he's got great speed. He's a true 80 runner. I think you could see that guy be a lot like Bertie, as you just said. That's almost the exact profile he has. And I think he could definitely help this team this year.
All right, guys. So for this episode of The Farm Report, you saw Dane smile the whole time, man. Look at this guy, this handsome son of a bitch. I love seeing this guy happy. If Dane's happy, I'm happy. Let me tell you right now. But this has been an episode of The Farm Report. Guys, remember, regular time tonight, same time as yesterday. Hopefully my power stays on today. We get through a whole game in the post-game show. But tonight, we got Game Season Live coming up. Nestor Cortez on the mound for the New York Yankees, guys. So make sure you tune in for Game Season Live. With that being said,
Come say hi in the chat.
Dane, yes, Dane will, of course, be in the chat. Say hi to all of us. We'll see you guys then. Talk to you guys later.
Later.
Top 10 radar, yeah, we on your radar. Never miss, dog, and that's on occasion. Yeah, we on your radar. Yeah. Hey,
look, top floor, lifestyle, chef and boy, I'm cooking up. Way too high, ain't coming down, you see me if you looking up. I don't really talk too much, I show them run the numbers up. Lucky that I'm strolling up, I'm going off, they know what's up. Wrist too silly, numbers crack the billy. Yeah, don't need no dilly, I'm too fresh, I feel like really, yeah. Feel the duffels up the sign, I need a million. I'm about to take off, and I know that I'm on they radar.
Top 10 radar.